Hello and welcome to the second video of this series. Today I will start with a bold claim. Tell me what someone believes about the human and I can tell you their political ideology. This is actually something really interesting because we see it often that behind the political idea, there's a basically hidden picture about what humans are actually like. Most of them never say it out loud, but you can see it. My picture has very much four parts. The first part is people look after themselves. The second part is people learn as they go through their lives. The third part is people can be shaped. And the fourth part is people are limited. I would say so far, so simple. But actually, I think that most political mistakes or bad policies are made from getting one of these wrong, and you can clearly see how. So let me begin with the first claim. We look after ourselves. And here it's important to say that we look after ourselves doesn't mean we are selfish. Here we have to look into history. For example, Adam Smith. Everyone calls him basically the godfather of greed. But actually, he argued for the opposite of greed because he said we have kind of an inner judge and we want to be respected, and thus we won't be greedy in itself. So basically, that part of you wants to be able to respect yourself even when nobody is watching. So when I say people are self interested, I just mean that people act in a way they think it's actually good. And what you think is good may differ in various terms. For example, some people think money and status is good, or you might think that your kids are good, your faith, your craft, your country, or you act for a friend, even though it pays you nothing. So you just work towards an end that you think is good. It doesn't mean you're selfish or greedy. I always like to give the example of a mother. She works double shifts for her family, but in reality, she actually is acting in her own interest, but in a bigger sense, because for her it's important that her family is doing good. So even though she suffers in the immediate consequence of working double shifts, in the end, she does it for herself because she feels good when her family feels good. So generosity isn't selfishness wearing a mask, basically. It's what happens when your idea of your own good has grown bigger than you, as in the example of the mother. So where does this idea actually get backlash from? And this is basically here another picture. It's kind of uncomfortable because if we all act on our self-interest everywhere else in life as well, we can't assume actually that people turn into, for example, selfless angels that just want to help people, not for themselves. So, what do I mean with that? Basically, if someone gets a government job, they are not selfless angels. So, the same drive that makes someone, for example, cut corners in a business makes them also cut corners to power. Usually, that's way bigger, and also the more power they get, the more the stakes rise, and it gets easier to get rid of people who disagree with you. And this is exactly a problem. Because if we think simple about it, if you have a boss, or for example, a president that only has yes men around him, he slowly starts not hearing the negative news anymore. He only hears the positive, the great things about themselves. And then they start to believe that there's nothing negative about them, where they have to improve, where they have to get better, what they should change. They only hear positive things to any idea they have. And this really results into problems for the country. We can see that in some situations today. But just to be clear about this is not something where I say it's just horrible because it's the government. It is because it's a nature, a human thing. it's natural for human beings to be like that. And I just saying that the higher the power of a human being is, the worse it gets. For some people, they don't want yes men around them, and they know about this flaw and try to get rid of that with hearing all the time also counter arguments. And this is exactly where we have to learn. And this is what the government should do. Also get the counter arguments in, because that's how we get kind of rid of this flaw. So yes, not every person is greedy secretly, or every kind act is a trick. But I just say that when they get a job of power, it doesn't change them around into not being self-interested anymore. They will always be. And this is also why we see so much corruption. So because I obviously love history, we always have to have an historical example. And once again, here we can take Nazi Germany in the 1930s and 40s. Basically, we are talking about the leader principle, the Führerprinzip of Hitler. There was absolute loyalty just to Hitler. It was loyalty not to the state, not to the law, not to a constitution, but to Hitler. Because what Hitler said was above the law. What Hitler said was the law, basically. It was what was right for every German, because he said he knew what Germans needed, and everyone who disagreed with him didn't know it. So there we see exactly that. He only had yes men around him because you couldn't disagree with him if you didn't want to get into trouble, at least in most cases. And this was really a problem. So did this create something like superhuman wisdom? No, it created the opposite. Honest advice got replaced by flattery. Everyone wanted to agree with him and wanted to be even more extreme in doing what Hitler wanted, or even guessing what Hitler wanted, to do the thing he wanted before he knew he wanted to do it, just to flatter him. And that also resulted in all people just trying to be so loyal to him, and they built their own empires, had rivalries against each other because they all tried to over-trump each other to be more loyal to Hitler and know what Hitler would want from them. I wrote in one of my books a masterpiece built by a leader for a leader. It was not for the country, not for the people, it was perfect for him. So yeah, basically, take away the checks and the power doesn't get wiser or kinder. It just runs on the same ordinary vanity and ambitions as everybody else, with nothing left to stop it. And this is exactly the danger. This is why it's so important to understand that people are self-interested in itself, and that getting power won't change that. So that brings me to my second claim, and that is we figure things out as we go through life. Some theories actually say that the human already knows what he wants, what he's best at, what he should do. But I crazy disagree with that. I think through our life, we learn what we want and what we are good at. We learn what matters to us. And this is by trying, by failing, to coping to other people and changing our minds. Failure is so important in life to grow. So, for example, if you start a new hobby or you get a new job and you learn you are actually naturally good at the thing you're doing now, you've learned something and you found out, oh, I'm good at that. Or you fail and you learn, oh, I'm bad at that. Failure isn't just a private bummer, it's how the whole system basically learns through failure. When someone guesses wrong and loses, the money or the effort you put into that move to a person that guessed right, for example, and wins. Only always the better people that are better at guessing the future are winning. And for every failure we learn, for example, that we were wrong, and we can analyze how to be better in the future. One interesting aspect as well about being human, we fear losing more than we enjoy winning. And this is really important to understand. If we have something, we always fear more losing what we have than enjoy the prospect of winning something else. This is in so far practical that it basically is a risk limiter. It freezes the risk you're willing to go to a level that ensures that even if you lose something, you still have enough to live. However, it also limits the success you can have. If you don't care anymore about what you have and you can risk everything you have, your winning might be bigger in the end. But also, if you lose, you've lost everything. So that kind of changes the risk maximization. So people are buyers, but people are not too dumb to run their own life, basically. Because the exact mental glitches that happen inside the government office also happen inside your head. And this is important to know because when you do something wrong, you get the bill for that. When someone in a government office does something wrong, they often don't get the bill, or maybe they just lose their job, but in the end, it costed many people their lives. Or worse, you never know. So in the end, you see that there's quite a difference. Well, when you do something wrong, it's your responsibility, you have a big problem. If they do something wrong in the office, they don't have the full responsibility for that and they can risk the lives of many more people. So my third claim is we can be shaped for better or for worse. We are not born as little angels, but we're also not fixed as greedy robots either. We get shaped by our family, by law, by religion, school, habit, and the example around us. We react to the way we gain money, and we also react to punishment, but we also react to respect, to shame, and what we feel we owe other people. So a stable, good valued surrounding of us when we grow up is very, very important. To make a very harsh claim that is true, we have to say a society that rewards cheating gets also more cheating. And a society that treats a promise as optional finds people trusting each other less. And this also goes into the first video I made, where we see that trust is essential. And when people can't trust each other, there will be a big problem for the economy and for the government. So it is always important that families value trust, honesty, and punish cheating, as should the state. Because once we can't trust the state anymore, everything falls apart. Important to note, however, is that you can't just change a culture from the top. It's not the state to decide what a culture is. Often a culture needs to be shaped by its people, because only through that long-term change can happen. If the people hate everything the state commands them to do, at some point people will, for example, in secret, not value trust anymore, or honesty. And then this will change the coming generation, and with that, all these values go away. So it needs to come from the people instead of from the state. So my last claim is we are unlimited, including those who are in charge. And I think that's the most important claim because it basically hits every one of us. We're just small humans, we have short life, short attention, patchy memory, and we are very bad at seeing how the future looks like. So, yeah, it is important to acknowledge that. And I think, like already Socrates found out, the smartest people are those people who know how little they actually know. Breaking things is easier than to rebuild them. I made in the first video the example of trust. Breaking trust can happen like this. It can happen in 1 second. Only one wrong move and you broke trust. However, building trust or building trust in general can take years. So it is important once you have something to always keep it going because it's very sacred. So, because every single one of us is limited, So are also the officials, the people in the government, and they are even a little bit more limited when it comes to economics than we are, because they are further away from the normal people's life. They live in their own sphere and thus don't understand the normal people's life as good as the normal people actually themselves, because they only hear it through channels and they never experience it themselves. So there's a bold claim. And the bold claim is basically that this is exactly the reason why a free country needs rules that even the majority can't override. Not because people are in themselves bad, but because everyone is limited. And a crowd is as limited as a single person as well. Crowd can make the same mistakes because a crowd consists out of single people having their beliefs and their limited view. That's also why small local mistakes are actually a good thing. They are cheap, they get spotted fast, and they get fixed close to the ground where they are made. One giant big mistake by the highest form of government can be way harder to fix and can cost a whole lot more. So what can we learn of that? Always be honest about our limitations and about the basic abilities of the human being. You should never lie about them, because once you lie, you can make mistakes about them. And once politicians lie about those limitations a human has, they will make mistakes as well. And once they lie and honesty is not there anymore and trust gets lost, it can go downhill real bad. And we are on the way down at the moment. So we can expect our politicians to lie more and more because they try to save each other and get votes. So, no, there's not one great leader who stands above the limits of a human and knows exactly what is needed to be done to have the perfect world. No one does know that. You can just give an educated guess about it, but you have to be honest about it. You have to say, well, I think it would be best like that, but obviously I have the same limitations as anybody else. But I say that because I think that, and I saw that and that, and that's why I argue like this. That you can obviously always do, but always be honest. I hope you liked the video. I hope you could learn something. And I wish you a great day. And write something in the comments if you have criticism or advice. Bye for now.